Ba-da-bum,
Dun,
bum,
dun, dun, dun,
ba-dum,
dun,
bum,
dun,
bum,
Kilted.
bum, balls.
We have a special
Woo.
surprise today, Kilted.
We do.
Yeah, so welcome to our next episode, but we have a special interview guest today.
Oh, awesome.
So totally he is unprepared, has no idea what he's in for.
That is sweet. Well, I do know he's in the crypto space a little bit. I'm not sure about NFTs, but we talked crypto this summer.
We did, but I'm more interested in his journey.
Yes.
So I thought that would be
He does have an awesome journey.
I think this is our first male we have interviewed. No, I guess if we counted.
Sorry, Joe.
This was interviewing us, though. It wasn't us interviewing him.
Yes.
So anyway, this is, to me, DJ SnS.
Yeah.
I think in reality, it's supposed to be DJ SnS. Is that right?
That is correct.
So DJ SnS, but he will always be known to me as DJ SnS.
Yep.
We've known DJ for a long time, us and Kilted.
Long time. Yes.
It's a great story, I think. And he is totally unprepared. So literally stopped by the house today and was like, hey, stop by, wanted to chat. I'm like, perfect. Come to my office for a second.
That is an awesome idea.
So
See, you never know what'll happen. If you just stop by and say hello, you could end up a world famous podcast.
That's right. And so this is one of our interviews. So we probably won't talk a tremendous amount about our NFTs. We might, right?
That's totally fine. Either way.
More about hearing the story. So why don't you
yeah.
kick off the interview, Kilted?
All right. Well, what would you prefer to call you? Would you prefer me to call you DJ or SnS or SNS
Or E?
or E?
Luckily, with the name like Ephraim, I have always been able to respond to just about anything. Hey, you.
Yes, that's true. So you just, what's that word? Doxed yourself? He just doxed himself?
Well, yeah,
We're gonna know who he is.
Not like an internet celebrity, so it's not like he's really doxed.
Oh, okay.
You know.
So yeah, I mean, we all go way back, and all for different reasons. But the really cool thing about your journey is, obviously the DJ aspect. So fill us in a little bit of that. Like, how'd you get into that, and go into that story. Don't worry about ever trying to do things as wonderful as like the beginning of our music. I mean, with Ballbuster and I together making music, there's no way you could compete with that. Yeah.
Was that the beginning? Like, we started out with the theme song here today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, did you hear it?
That was really impressive. Yeah.
You could possibly use that.
We actually were worried that you would want to sample it, and I don't think we have the paperwork ready for that.
We don't.
In the future, we could talk about some kind of loop or something that, yeah.
Right. Let you go to town on that.
I dig it. That's funny. That actually, I was telling this story yesterday to. It just seems to be kind of a question that it gets asked a lot. How did you fall into DJing? Because there's kind of this pervasive societal view that DJing is not really a profession of sorts. It's kind of looked at as like everybody is like, oh, I DJed back in college or something. It's just something that everybody has kind of done. And I actually kind of fought starting to DJ for a long time, if that makes any sense.
It does.
My business partner really wanted me to come out and kind of join their DJ crew, I guess, if you will. And I was coaching wrestling early on then. And I was like, no, I want to help out with the wrestling thing. A lot of times the events are on Saturdays, and I don't want to commit to that because, I'm coaching wrestling, and that right now is my priority or my focus. And finally, after about a year and a half, 2 years of breaking me down and saying, oh, come on, this will be fun. You'll have a good time doing this. And I finally was like, okay, I will come try it out, sort of thing. And looking back now on things that I did very early on, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the band Pop Evil.
I believe so. Jer, no.
For for our listeners, I did shake my head no.
A phenomenal rock band out of West Michigan. Done some pretty big stuff, but very early on, one of my first gigs was a New Year's Eve that I played with Pop Evil, and they did like the countdown for New Year's Eve, and they had provided me with this like CD that was like 45 minutes long, an hour long, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember specifically the owner coming over to me, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they gave me the CD, told me to play it. And he's like, "Nope, cut them off right now."
Really?
So this band that has become like huge, I ended up cutting them off in the middle of their set back for a New Year's Eve.
Oh, that's hilarious. Now, I mean, yeah, why?
Why did they want them cut off?
Not really sure. They didn't. I guess they didn't know that they had set up this whole thing,
Oh,
and
Wow.
they wanted the DJ to go on. Maybe people were enjoying it too much and they wanted to sell drinks.
oh, that could be.
That does happen.
Mhm. What were you gonna ask, Kilton?
Oh no, I was just gonna ask why as well. Like before that.
So that's how you got in, and where's it gone since? Like, so they got you in. They said, "Okay, come DJ for us." And so then DJ SnS was born, right?
Yeah, very early on too. I didn't have a DJ name, so I mean, if you guys don't mind me sharing the
No, we're plugging away. baby.
Mm-mm.
origin of that name, and I don't know. I mean, I need to keep this like PG or
Nope, it does not have to be PG.
Nope.
so I didn't have a DJ name, and one of the guys that
I hope not.
says, "Well, what's your DJ name gonna be?" I don't know. You got any ideas? He looks at me and he's like, "DJ SnS." I was like, "Okay, that's great. That's cool." And it wasn't till years later that I asked what that was about, and he says, "Well, I just looked at you and I go, you're short and shit, so."
When I told you that I always pronounce it DJ Sins, you were like, "Oh, that's so much better."
It is.
Yeah, DJ Sins is way better than short and shit. I think so.
That's awesome.
DJ.
That's so funny.
So you can't tell here because we're staggered so that he still looks big. But
Yeah, that's great camera shot.
yes, he is a little bit smaller than us.
He looks like a normal sized human being there.
He does. He looks normal. Normally, I carry him in my pocket or on like a little.
I choose you, DJ SnS.
Nice. Love the Pokemon reference. Okay, so yeah. So where are we? So he gives you the name. You come out. You start DJing, and like things have gotten bigger. So take us through. Like what happened?
I very much was doing it as this is just kind of a fun thing, an enjoyable thing. And back in those days, man, it was an easy way to meet the ladies. So and I actually compared it the other day to it must have been like what living in the 70s and free love was all about. So, I mean, it was fun from that standpoint. And then honestly, the best way I can put it is, I don't know, sometimes I don't know if you've ever just like had an epiphany or woken up, but it was very much like this for me. One day I just woke up and decided, or not decided, but like I just realized that DJing, I wanted to make something of it as opposed to it just being something that I was doing.
That's awesome. I think I remember that day. Was it the after riding 14 hours in the backseat of the truck with the 100-pound dog breathing like directly in your face the whole time? I bet you it was that next day. You said maybe this DJ thing will be all right, rather than
You gotta wonder if he was questioning his life choices during that drive. Because I would be questioning mine. Like, I'm like, what did I do to my dog breathing on for a 14-hour car ride? Where did I go wrong?
do the show thing. Yeah.
That's fun.
Which was great though. I love that part of my life. It was fantastic. Because people would always be like, "Oh, so you're like a carny," and I'm like, "Absolutely not. We do state fairs. We're fairies."
Exactly. That is a classic. And to fill the listeners in, he helped was it 2 years? Was it 2 summers? It was at least that one summer, but I was thinking that we had a little bit over the second summer. But anyways, he helped a lot at some of the big fairs and went around most of the United States with us. So it was a great time. That was back in the day, like pulling the camper around, and it was a diesel Silverado. And there were 4 people, a 100-pound dog, and then Echo is just a little guy. I think he might have only been 25 pounds. So there are 2 dogs in the back seat and 2 people. Oh. And Max was well over 100 pounds, and he loved to just sit in the chair and breathe on anyone who was there.
Ass dog. That's what it was.
So yeah, he was a huge help and just a great time early on, in my business.
Yeah, that's true. Taking part in all of our lives. We're all interconnected that way. So how long has DJing been your full-time gig?
Oh, that is a super good question. And
how much control do you have over the company now? Like total? 50%, 20%? What's the name of your company?
mixxinDJs is the name of the company.
mixxinDJs. So we got to make sure we put that out. mixxinDJs. They can do all your DJing needs. They do weddings. Fantastic. I've seriously only heard awesome things about their weddings. I've been to many weddings that they've DJ'd, and seriously, always a great time. So mixxinDJs, they'll hook you up, baby.
What was that? Sorry, what was the...
How long has it been your full-time gig?
Full-time gig, I would guess 10 plus years that this has been where I finally said, okay, I'm not, taking on these side jobs or side hustles. Because for a long time I was in the hospitality industry doing stuff like banquet serving, working at restaurants. And I remember I got hired at a Mexican restaurant, and that only lasted for 3 months. And that really was an experience that made me say, I'm done with restaurants. I'm done with, waiting on people, and kind of really turned me into devoting my attention to the DJing.
So one of the recurring themes in every interview we've had, and even Gary Vee talks about this a lot when he's like doing his things, is don't expect to like own and run a successful business next year.
Yeah.
Like that's not how the world works. And so again, it sounds like you're saying, you got out of school, you started doing stuff, you're helping coach and wrestling, you're doing these things, started dabbling in DJ, working in hospitality, and then kind of decided DJing was going to be your thing, and slowly grown into this nice, beautiful mixxinDJs business that's your full-time gig. But it took some years.
Yes.
It took some years. That's been a recurring theme, right?
Yeah,
exactly. She was like, listen, I was like doing the grind, and she would probably make the argument that she's still kind of doing the grind. She's just transitioning, but
yeah,
transitioned to calling her own shots, which is similar to mixxinDJs. And, Amy was on here. She talked about her days working for as a secretary, before she moved all the way up to financial director. So we're definitely kind of catching that. You did that, right? Yeah. Busting ass all over. That's what I mean. You just talked about that, right?
Yeah.
Over on the state fairs, busting ass trying to get places. Yeah, so it's definitely a recurring theme. So if you're one of our people listening saying, man, I really want to be an entrepreneur, not just our NFT listeners, but the people who are like looking for the business stuff, you got to remember, as Gary Vee would say, you got to eat shit for a few years, right? Don't expect to be eating sushi and caviar right out of the gate. That's not how the world works. but I feel like a lot of our youth think that, right?
No, you're exactly right. Well, it was that same trip when E there had sushi for the first time. That's why I was laughing extra. And he said, "Oh, I think I'd prefer a good burger over this." And we're like, he's older now, he understands.
Look how far we've grown.
Yes.
Because it's Halloween, so we are taping this on Halloween. We'll probably release this on Halloween. So happy Halloween, all of our listeners.
Yes.
But one of the things we do for Halloween often is we tend to host a lot, but we tend to show up with a whole shit ton of sushi rolls, right? From a pretty fancy restaurant, because Amy's gig is the financial officer of a pretty fancy restaurant, right? So, but we've graduated from, Meyer sushi.
Yeah. Well, the thing in going back before I'd interrupted that train of thought, you're exactly right. Like putting in the time, it's gonna, especially anything worth doing, it's gonna take a lot of time. You got to figure it out. There's a lot of different areas, and sometimes even to do what you want to do. Going back to what you say about Gary, he talks about working your day job and then working something else where you have that money coming in and you can put money aside for something else. For many years doing shows, I worked for somebody and then gradually started doing my own events. And then you just make that switch over. And that was still selling someone else's stuff or buying wholesale. And then decided to make our own. So to talk to the factories to do all that work. I mean, those are all like giant steps. And, it depends on where you're happy and with what you're doing. And I know E's really happy, but he's got that in him where he's got to be the boss. And I can understand that totally.
Yeah.
Is it okay to, I just wanted to piggyback off that idea that
Absolutely.
you're talking about. And,
For sure.
I see that quite a bit. And I've had and I can only really specifically speak to like the DJ side of things, but had like new DJs come to me and ask me for advice. And I always tell them something that I'm not sure that any DJ wants to hear, because that prevailing thought that in 6 to 18 months, I'm just going to be this huge festival DJ, or I'm going to be that DJ that gets paid 6 figures for a 2-hour set in Las Vegas. Well, number one, you're probably not. Don't sell yourself short on your dreams. But at the same time, like, the one thing that I tell them is about that grind. And I say, look, I have spent so many events or gigs or, just days playing for absolutely nobody. And you have to get comfortable playing for nobody, because if you can't play for nobody, you're never going to make it to playing for thousands of people.
And by the way,
awesome.
DJ SnS play at some pretty big bar events, and it's hard to talk to him. He's like really in the zone.
That's true.
I'm in the zone.
Well, he will play jump around when he sees me walking to the bar. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
That gets the whole party started.
But yeah, I tell you, people forget about that all the time. Yeah. Grind is real. And the funny part is, there isn't a kid around, I think, who doesn't understand if they're playing a video game that they've got to grind.
That's a great.
They all know that. They go, I've got to grind. But as soon as you change it to, okay, you've got to do schoolwork every night, you've got to do the grind, or you've got to work on your business every day for 6 hours besides your day job, like, you got to do the grind. They're like, no, that's not for me. Like, that's not what I love. Like, it doesn't fulfill me. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Grind doesn't fulfill people. It's why we call it the grind, right? But that's whatever game you're in. That's why you grind, right? You grind to get up to those levels to be awesome.
Yeah.
Start off awesome, right? Which I had a student the other day talking about, they were laughing. I do a lot of games, and some of our early listeners know that. Like, I play tons of games, not just D&D, but like one of my students realized I played Unturned a lot, which I haven't for months. They're sad, but he's like, are you good at Discord? I'm like, people fear me, right? I go, I wouldn't say I'm good, but people are like, oh shit, Ballbuster's on. How did you, he goes, well, I know how you got good. You got 1,000 hours on that game. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah, that's all you got to do.
I'm like, I've got 1,000 hours in the game. Guess what? I'm good. And Kilted's played that game with me before. And like how patient and like chill I am. And like, I know what shit's going on. Like, I'll be like, someone's going to come walking by here in 3 minutes. So get ready. And like, how do you know that? Because I've played it so much. It's like the market with crypto and NFT. And we stress that to people a lot. Don't jump on and just buy stuff. Do research. And if you want to make a living at NFTs or crypto, it's a grind. You got to do tons and tons of research. We're not there. That's why we're not doing that for a living, right? It's a grind. You got to do a lot of research, and it's not exciting and it's not fun. And you're not like, oh my gosh, my life is so fulfilled. My dreams are, no, it's a grind. Right. And you do that grind. So
yeah, exactly. And I imagine that was like that for you, E, especially getting started, like, because you have the you're the sales guy as well as the DJ. So you're the one talking to people, you're the one, working those dates out and all that, especially, starting out. I don't know exactly where you're at now, if you have other people in the office or whatever, but that's part of that. A lot of times to get to that next stage, you're going to have to do things that you don't want to do as well, but that's all super, super important stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's all just part of the grind that you're talking about. We've had a really tough time expanding beyond kind of just myself, my business partner, having like one or two other guys that we trust to send out to events.
Yep.
But that's kind of like a quality control issue for us that, and this is not to sound, but it kind of reverts back to that whole like 1,000 or 10,000 hours becoming like a master sort of thing, right? Kind of like what we expect of ourselves. And we can't just hire, somebody out of high school or somebody from college for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're not going to care about our business the way that we care about it. No. And that's understandable because it's not their business. Yeah. But that's the care and expectation I have for my clients. So it's really hard for me to just, and it's a business model decision, really. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
If you are the business model that it's like, look, we're a numbers game and maybe we're going to charge, a little bit less for our services, but I can book 17 weddings a weekend. Whereas us, we're going, look, yeah, we're charging a higher price, but you're getting this level of quality.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because that has been a conversation that Kilted and I have had over the last 15 years, probably 1,000 times about dream state sheets. Like how many times have I said, stop screwing around, hire like 20 people, and you guys going, yeah, but we can't find the quality. And I'm like, screw the quality. Get people out there doing shows. And it's the same thing with yours, though I would say yours is a little bit more important to have the quality.
I think like the sheets are going to kind of sell themselves.
Right? Yeah, no, I agree with Bob Buster totally. Like it's a different game if I had 10 salespeople out there selling sheets, as opposed to if you had 10 different DJs out there doing the gigs. It's a totally different game.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. But it's the same idea. Like, how do you?
Yeah, it's the same idea.
Right. Like, how do you put that up? Okay, totally different side note. So listeners don't get this a lot. These two know this. I tend to have random thoughts that just hit everybody from the wrong angle. So I apologize to my listeners with my zigzags, but having people who I know and love helps the zigzags happen better. And so does lots of coffee. But one of the things that comes up sometimes, so totally random, I do a lot of career like advice and counseling in my profession. And people will always make a joke like about being a stripper or doing something like along those lines, like as a joke, right? And I'm always like, I don't know why that would be a bad choice. Kilton and I often talked in college that we think we should have been strippers. I don't think we would have made any money, but we would have enjoyed taking our pictures. Probably the real. One of the things I always tell those people, they're like, well, I'm like, that could be a real profession. They're like, oh, I don't want to sell my body. I'm like, you're always selling your body. Like, you always are. You just don't realize it. Do you feel like as a DJ, like that you're selling your body more than a normal person? Like, so I think like when Kilted is doing all these shows, I'm like, okay, so he's basically selling his persona to get people to buy those sheets, right? And like when I'm doing candy, it's my persona that's doing that. When I'm doing chemistry, right? I've got to sell me to be able to do that. But I feel like that DJing is even more so. Do you find that? Because you're having to convince that person at a big wedding show from all the DJs to buy you.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. A couple of thoughts that come up when you ask this question.
Besides me being naked.
Besides that, yes,
Yes,
that
okay.
was.
That's a normal thought that
There
he
wasn't enough
has.
beer in here for that. Yeah, that's one of the big things that we talk about when it comes to sales, and us as a business, we relish those bridal shows because 100% we're selling ourselves, right? That's what we expect people to hire us.
And it's a good
for.
product.
Yeah,
I mean, I would buy you.
it's a good product. We tend to be like very fun and able to just joke with people. And one of the things that we do as well is we're not trying, again, back to that whole quality over quantity sort of thing. We're not trying to hire every single client that's looking to hire us. We want to work with people that it's going to be a really good fit for. And we just find that, like, look, if we are a client's cup of tea, we're going to have a better time at your event. You're going to have a better event, and you're going to have just this trust in us to take care of you and do what needs to be done at your event because there's this rapport. That's awesome.
That is terrific. So what's in the future for DJ SnS?
Oh, what is in the future? Man,
a deep question, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You think about expanding all the time because at some point you think like, yeah, maybe we transitioned from the hire us because we're young and we understand you and kick rocks at the guys who have experience, but now that I'm old enough, hire the young guys because they don't know what they're doing.
Perfect.
So there's always this thought of you have to grow, competing with that, like, how do I keep that quality and send what I expect to clients. But also, I mean, in the last year kind of started looking into investing and the stock market, and I'm not any good at it because I haven't put in my 10,000 hours yet.
Yeah.
But lots of time spent learning, and I think this is one area where you can actually do your own research and watch YouTube videos and gain knowledge. Yeah,
well, I mean, I would say 90% of our episodes, maybe 95 of our episodes, are all about crypto and that market and the NFT market and going all the time. So yeah, you're preaching to the choir, and it's hard to find the time to do the research. I was thinking about that today. I'm like, man, I need to get so much more research in on especially the altcoins so that I can talk a little bit more logically about it. I'm like, it just takes time on the page.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And finding that time, especially as I'm coming into my busy season, is going to be crazy. So everybody has busy seasons in their life, and ball is about to hit their busy. So life will be interesting real quick. So
I know the episodes are going to be even more interesting because your time is going to be taken up with more stuff.
Oh yeah,
that's non-NFT, crypto, even entrepreneurial related. So it's going to be really fun to see where the episodes go. I've been thinking about that.
To see how my brain functions. The only thing I have that could be an advantage is normally my brain shuts off about middle of December, right? Because I'm just processing too much data. So we have limits as humans to how much data we can process, and mine gets about overloaded midway through December. But I'm thinking that in the other facets of my life, my brain isn't going to be as needed anymore. So maybe I'll be able to keep some of that bandwidth.
Two less children out of the house would helps with that, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, there's kids in the house and everything else. So who knows? Maybe my bandwidth will work. So we'll find out. And I just told E I'm hiring additional staff to help operate things. So I'm like, maybe we'll be able to use less of my own brain power, and probably not, but
yeah,
it's a dream. So
what can you do?
We'll see. We'll see. All right. So DJ SnS, any last minute things? Any plugs? We'll make sure we put all of your links in our bio, in our comments, in our Twitterverse. So
one thing that I would love to share, which I think I kind of I don't know, missed out through the interview somewhere, but this has kind of always driven me. Maybe 10, 12 years ago, something like that. And I don't even remember the name of the gentleman who was filmed for this YouTube video, but his whole premise was that people don't buy, well, how does he say it?
cool story, bro.
Yeah, you like that? I found $20. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. You have to start with why. Otherwise, and he used Apple as a great example, that it's, they tell you all about like why you should get their product. And then later, oh, by the way, we sell computers. Like it's just so intelligent. And start from that why with whatever it is that you're doing and go from there.
No, I think that's beautiful.
That's super awesome.
Just gave a talk to a bunch of teachers. The kids don't care about what you're teaching. They've got to care about you. And if you're not passionate about what you're doing, then you're nothing. So you got to be, got to have your why. You got to have you got to be passionate about it, and then things go. And part of that is, that's how you get through the grind, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Passionate about it. And so then you can grind, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's one thing I've always said about teachers. You're the ultimate salesperson. You just don't get paid for it. Because you're like you had said earlier, you have 30 kids in the classroom. You've got to sell that idea for them to want to pick up what you're putting down.
Oh yeah. That's why when I took on the candy business, I still remember the conversation. You were like, "Are you sure? Because you're not really a salesperson." And I'm like, "Dude, I sell chemistry to 15-year-old kids who don't want to be there."
Yeah.
Selling candy is going to be easy.
People like sugar that much.
Yeah.
Like, I'm used to dealing with people who hate what I'm doing and making them love it. Selling somebody candy and to buy it, I was right. It's like giving candy to the baby instead of taking it away. It's like nothing. So, yeah, good times.
That's awesome.
Right, well, I think that was a great episode, people. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much, DJ SnS with mixxinDJs, for joining us. We loved it.
Yes, thanks, E.
Thank you for having me on.
We're going to be having you on again to talk more about your stock market journey. So get your ass moving, because we're going to want to hear where this story unfolds. So we'll give you a little time to become a rock star, but expect another call to get in here and show us what you got. So
exactly. Not financial advice. Do more research on crypto than stocks.
Yep, none of that. So anyway, this is Ballbuster signing off. Thank you for being here.
Kilter Dragon J, I love you all. Thanks, E.